Okay, shalom, y'all. Shalom to everyone. I'm here ensconced in my office. My son Aaron is so busy with the army, he hasn't had a chance to get me the password for Yahoo so I can do this normally on the computer. So I'm doing this still with my phone, which is what I was doing for 2 months on my road trip in Texas and other places. But anyway, it works, and so we're fine. The update today, as you probably may know, I don't think that it's in your media. We have a problem here in Israel that our chief of staff, Eyal Zamir, seems to have said one thing to Netanyahu when he was running for his position as chief of staff. And then when he got the position as chief of staff, he completely did an about turn and he became all of a sudden a leftist and saying to Netanyahu that instead of 2 months, it's going to take 6 months to finish Gaza, when the truth is that we can finish off Gaza in 2 weeks. And so it seems like Eyal Zamir is with the Kaplan protest groups now. And so we're having a scandal. Did you hear anything about this in America?
I never heard. Mm-mm.
So it's not in your news in America, but we have our hands full now with a recalcitrant chief of staff who has decided to go his own way. And so, people are now talking about the need to fire him. And he was just brought in a few months ago, and he did a good job, especially with Iran. But the question of Gaza, this is a key question for Netanyahu and for the government. And the Israeli defense minister, Israel Katz, is very, very upset that all of a sudden the chief of staff does not want to follow orders, as he promised he would. When he gave his report to the prime minister of how he was going to deal with Gaza, he said one thing, and then now that he's chief of staff, he's saying the opposite. Israel also is now facing a new wave of strikes from left-wing activists. The same 300 crazy Air Force officers are threatening to go on strike again. The Histadrut is threatening to go on strike again. And actually, today, the Histadrut called off the nationwide strike because the court has said that this is a political strike and there's no room for this with the Histadrut. The Histadrut is a labor union type organization that deals with labor problems, not with political problems. So the strike was called off, but people are free to take a day off the strike. The generals, the former generals who have been attacking Netanyahu from day one are viciously on the attack again. The Supreme Court is viciously on the attack. The Attorney General is viciously on the attack. And Netanyahu and the Likud leadership, the Israeli Congress or Knesset, cannot do anything because these Soviet socialists are so ensconced in power that you cannot remove them. And I'll say something horrible. There are one or two possibilities. Either wait for everybody to die, all these old people, or go in with bayonets and just kill them. I mean, this is something that the Soviets would have handled very quickly. But we're not Soviets, praise God. So I think Netanyahu is going piece by piece, but it'll take years to purge the Israeli government and judiciary and civil service from all these Soviet socialists who are controlling. Meanwhile, as you all know, Gaza is pretty much finished, except for the city of Gaza and the refugee camps in the south part of Gaza Strip, Moasi. So we're watching how long will it take for the chief of staff to dilly-dally before going in and finishing the job. The last thing we want in Israel is a civil war amongst the Jewish people. But very simply, the chief of staff is dragging his feet and not following orders from Netanyahu. So we will have to see. Don't be surprised in the coming days if you hear that the chief of staff gets fired by Netanyahu. So he prepared a report of exactly how tough he was going to be, and that's why they appointed him chief of staff. And then it turns out that his whole lie became apparent. And so now the prime minister has to decide what he's going to do. The problem is, if Netanyahu fires the chief of staff, then the Supreme Court will come out and say, no, you can't fire him, because nothing Netanyahu does gets approved by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court stops Netanyahu and the Likud government in their tracks. There was also a fear a few days ago that Bezalel Smotrich, who is the head of he's the Secretary of the Treasury in Israel, said he might quit the Netanyahu government because Netanyahu seems to be so stymied in his activities. He's not able to do what he promised he would do. And that's because the chief of staff won't let him. So Netanyahu's hands seem to be tied. So we're going to have to just wait and see what happens. I'm here in Israel, enjoying myself, enjoying life, doing Zooms again from a distance, and preparing for the next trip to the States, hopefully from mid-October to mid-December. But until then, I'm here. I do have some good news, which is still in the works. I have made the decision, because of the success of this last trip, that I will be henceforth having my fourth book, which is really my eighth book now, about the Bible block. I'm going to have the book translated into Hebrew. Now, you see, the subject is so, how shall I say, off bounds, that no normal publisher will handle it. So I have to go to there's certain kinds of publishers, you have them in America also, that you go to the publisher and you pay them like $25,000, which I made on this trip. And then within 9 months, the book is translated into Hebrew. And once the book is translated into Hebrew, hopefully in time for the next elections, I will take the book and hand it out to all the TV, radio, and newspaper and VIP people who do interviews. And hopefully, as a result of the interviews, after people read the book, all of a sudden people will wake up in the media and say, this is Avi Lipkin Cinderella. Because until now, I've been pretty much kept a secret by the powers that be. So nothing can happen until the book comes out in Hebrew. Once the book comes out in Hebrew, I expect the number of votes to go up from 400, like in 5 elections, 400 votes only, to 4,000 or 40,000 or more. There's a lot of instability now in Israel. I don't want to draw a silly comparison, but I don't know if you remember Forrest Gump. The movie Forrest Gump, there was a part there where he bought a shrimper, and his buddy, who lost his legs in the Vietnam War, was very angry with God. And then when there was this big hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico, or Gulf of America, or whatever you want to call it, and he was shaking his fist at God and saying to God, okay, you want a hurricane? Bring a hurricane, and I'll show you. I don't know if you remember that part. And then they came back with so many shrimp that they became millionaires. And it's a funny way how God works. We are now before a big hurricane in this country as far as politics and as far as the next elections. And I think that we may have an opening here. We may have a breakthrough. Anyway, the book is written in English. It has to be translated. There's a lot of PR work that has to be done to get the book distributed. And but like I said before, I think things will change radically in our favor once the book appears in Hebrew to the Israeli public. And these publishers have said to me that they will give me 1,000 copies of the book in Hebrew. And of course, if I need more, I'll have to pay more for the books, but that's a sign that we're on the map finally. So that's the good news. Again, we don't know, will elections be in September in a year, or will elections be in 3 months or 6 months or 9 months? But whenever it is, I'm just waiting for the book to come out in Hebrew so that I can really score some goals here. So that's regarding the election. Regarding Lebanon, one of the great successes of Israel was the battering of Hezbollah. And now the Lebanese government is working very hard to disarm the Hezbollah. And the US is backing them, the French are backing them. And we're hoping that when all is said and done, Hezbollah will be disarmed completely. And then perhaps, God willing, we will have diplomatic relations with Lebanon, another country that will join the Abraham Accords. It'll be a tremendous success, breakthrough for the Netanyahu administration, Netanyahu government. And so that's something we're going to be watching very anxiously as well. On the negative side, the Saudis have shown their true colors and are also calling for Palestinian state. And we heard, of course, England and France and Germany and Australia have been talking about recognizing this virtual Palestinian state. I mean, there is no such thing as a Palestinian state, so how can they recognize it? Iran is talking about perhaps a deal by which the United States will remove sanctions from the Iranian economy and make some kind of a deal that the Iranians supposedly will behave themselves. But I think the big problem facing Iran today is that when you turn on the tap, no water comes out. There are many areas today in Iran that the Iranian government has not been investing in desalination. And so the Iranian people are thirsting. They're very thirsty. There's no water in Iran. So this will be very, very interesting to follow in the coming months. So we're watching Iran. The Houthis here and there are shooting a rocket or two, but the Houthis seem to be very quiet. And we shall see what happens with the Houthis. Other than that, things are pretty quiet. I think it's fair to say that the Druze seem to be well protected by Israel. The Israeli military is in position there to defend the Druze if need be. And we're very excited. Listen, I'm very excited because I see discussions taking place between the Druze and the Kurds. And they're talking about a ground pathway from Suwaida, from the Druze area. It's only about a 2-3 hour drive to the Euphrates River. And I see all of this as part of God's plan from the Nile to the Euphrates. So at least the Euphrates, we're very close. The Nile would depend, unfortunately, it would have to be as a result of some major cataclysm in Egypt, like an earthquake at the Aswan Dam or a war. At that time, we could reach the Nile. But at this stage, we're happy that we're not more involved in wars and that our boys and girls are not fighting wars farther away. Like I said many times, my biggest enemy is the Jewish mother who insists on her children being close to home for Shabbat. So we're watching very closely everything that's happening. But I think that if you want to sum up the 4 years of Netanyahu's government, we were hit by surprise by the Hamas terrorists, but God used that attack by the Hamas terrorists to bring about the fulfillment of more and more of the Nile to the Euphrates and Lebanon to the Yemen fulfillment of prophecy. And, stay tuned. Stay tuned for the next chapter. I don't know when it'll be, but we are stretched out. But on the other hand, we have more and more troops from our young people joining the army. And as you all know, my granddaughter, Sarah, was mobilized, and then they sent her home for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Now she's going to be called back to her basic training unit. My other granddaughter, Moria, is an officer. She's been in the army already 2 years, going on 3. Dror is in the Air Force, and he is going through, I have to translate it from Hebrew into English. He is a flight operator at the airport. He controls the flight operations. And Eviatar, who has already been released from reserves duty, served almost 4 years in the reserves already. He's busy getting married, finishing his BA, and finding jobs that'll match his qualifications. And I said to Dror, I said, cut out the nonsense. Just become, a deputy CEO of Lipkin Tours, and you have it made. But I think he wants to prove himself on his own for now, and then, if necessary, I would be very happy if my grandkids worked with Aaron and Lipkin Tours. I think they would be happy also. And then I have another granddaughter who is a tour guide working for the government as her national service. So things are very nice. All my kids are doing great things in Israel, in the military and in the national service. And Rachel is here with me, ever suffering with me. And like I said before, I'm going to be making a big effort now to get the book translated into Hebrew, be available for any questions they might have in the publication of the book. And as soon as the book is ready, it's going to get sent out to all the radio, TV, and newspaper people, and I'll be ready for interviews. This is very important for the Bible Block Party, for the campaign. And like I said before, I don't think we will get 400 votes. We're going to get 4,000 or 40,000 or 400,000. But I think this will be my golden opportunity. The book is ready, as far as I'm concerned. The book is ready in English, and now with the money that God provided for us on this trip, we're going to get the book out in Hebrew. And I do have a distant dream. I don't know if I'll do it or not, but I have to get the book in Russian. In other words, we have 2 million immigrants who came from former Soviet socialist republics. 400,000 are not Jewish, they're Christian. And but the Russians are a problematic group. They have been trained from birth not to have an opinion. But I'm thinking to myself, the time may come that I will have to go to Moscow and find a publisher or a publisher in Russian here and get the book out in Russian as well as Hebrew as well as English. So this will gather more votes, because the vast majority of the votes that I need for the elections are going to come from the Russian speakers. So there's a whole thing to do there. Anyway, it's good to be on the cutting edge, and I feel I'm on the cutting edge of everything I'm doing. And my health has been restored after my near meetings with God. And God said, no, we're not finished. Go back to work. So I'm here. I'm continuing my work. And I'm going to work on my book on Turkey and the Armageddon. That's another. I have many projects here in Israel. So we'll see what I can do in the next 2 months before I go back to the States again. Any questions?
Hi, Avi. It's Elizabeth. How are you?
Yes, dear. I love you, and I love Vicky and all that all of you did for me there in Odessa. And I hope maybe this time there won't be one of these windstorms and rainstorms and whatever we had that prevented me from coming to that luncheon. And maybe we can do it when I come in October.
Yes, we are looking forward to that, and hopefully that weather will not be an issue then. I wanted to ask you, I heard a comment or something made about the Israelis that are upset with Bibi, and in going in and taking over Gaza, and that there was a lot of resistance from his own people regarding that, and that there really were very threatening threats toward him if he went in and did this, and any hostage was harmed at all. Have you heard anything like that?
I think, Elizabeth, you came in a little late because I was kind of referring to this when we first started. Our problem with Gaza is not a problem with Gaza per se. Gaza could be finished off in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Our problem is that our chief of staff issued a report which got him elected as chief of staff, and that he was going to do this and he was going to do that, and he had a whole bunch of plans. And then when he got selected by Netanyahu as chief of staff, they say he became a Kaplanist. You know, Kaplan is the street where all these protesters are, protesting against Netanyahu and against the war in Gaza. And it's kind of like he lied. He lied to Netanyahu. He lied to the Minister of Defense, Israel Katz. And now all of a sudden, it seems we can't count on him because he's saying it's going to take 6 months. And
Okay.
Israel is not going to wait 6 months to finish the job in Gaza.
No.
And then Bezalel Smotrich, who is Minister of Finances, Secretary of the Treasury here, is very angry with Netanyahu that he's not doing what he promised he would do to finish the story in Gaza. So Netanyahu is between a rock and a hard place. What do we do with this chief of staff? Do we fire him? And the moment we fire him, it's already known that the Supreme Court in Israel will cancel the firing. Because we're not dealing with a democratic country. We're dealing with a Soviet socialist dictatorship, which will not allow Bibi to do anything. So it's a little complicated, but for me, it's not complicated because I'm living here. And I've been living here for the last 57 years. And I think I mentioned it to all of you that when I was fired from the Prime Minister's office in 1990, I demanded an investigation, and it turns out all of the complaints against me were lies. And then they said to me, well, we understand Yoram Ettinger vouched for you that you're the best translator they ever had, but there's nothing we can really do because if we go against the Histadrut, which is the national labor union, they're going to shut the country down. So I had a Christian lady friend in Dallas, and she said, "Oh, y'all come to Texas." And ever since then, I've been coming to the States to speak to Christians, and I never got a job in Israel. The only time I will be able to get a job in Israel, God willing, is if we win, 150,000 votes in the Knesset elections, and then I get in with 150,000 votes with 4 of my top people. So that's the threshold. So that's why it's so important to get the book translated into Hebrew and get the copies of the books into the hands of the top people on radio, TV, and newspapers. It might even be that there would be those Soviet socialists who are in control of the media and other places that might actually take an interest in my party, because if indeed we have 10 million immigrants coming, 6 million Jews and 4 million Christians, there's going to be a lot of rankling going on with the rabbis and others who don't like American Jews, who are Reformed, conservative, or unaffiliated. But I'm saying that's precisely what Israel needs. We need Judeo-Christian Western civilization and democracy in Israel. And so we're going to see. I sent a letter to the chief of staff of Ambassador Huckabee. The problem is he's Jewish. And so he might be good, but he might not be good for my idea of bringing Christians into the country. So I'm waiting to hear from him. I have a number of ways to reach Ambassador Huckabee. They will come when Huckabee will receive me. I'm sure he will support my efforts. But there are a lot of Jewish people, they hear the word Christian, it's like a cat with the hair standing up, you know?
I have another question for you. Um, we keep hearing reports about how a large portion of the people, the Jewish people in New York, like Mamadi. Mamadi, is that his name?
Mamdani.
Mamdani. I never say it right. And are very supportive of
By the
him.
way, it doesn't matter if you say it right or not because he's going to be out of there pretty soon.
I hope so. But you know, and it's hard to. I mean, what is it that these people, that the Jewish people are enamored with them, along with the Christians as well? I guess if they're Christian, uh, enamored with who they compare. He's talking like Hitler, Holocaust, and what he's trying to develop in New York City. Why would they consider even voting for him?
Well, you know,
The Jewish people.
there's a very famous joke in the United States. It was about the Deep South, but it applies also to New York and Mamdani. The joke in the Deep South was that if you bring a Democrat dog, a yellow dog, the Democrats will still vote for him. It's called Yellow Dog Democrats. And I don't know if you heard that before, but Mamdani is the yellow dog. And so all the Jews vote as Yellow Dog Democrats. Um, this is something I've been talking about for a long time. And that is that the Jewish people who came from Russia and were taught to be communists and Bolsheviks and against the Christians, thought that the American Christians were the same as the Russian Christians or the German Christians or the French Christians, which is not true. The white Anglo-Saxon Protestant America is very, very different than the nationalist Christians of Europe. But Jews will never understand that because Jews do not go to church on Sunday. What do you want? If they don't go to synagogue on Saturday, they're going to go to church on Sunday? Or they should read the New Testament. What do you want? They're going to read the New Testament if they don't read the Old Testament? So the problem with Mamdani is that the ignorance and the prejudices of Jewish people going back to Europe of 150 years ago is still the same mindset of the Jewish people in America. It's not that the Jews are bad, they're just ignorant. And, you know, anti-Semitism is hatred of the Jews coming from Christians or Muslims, and at the same time, hatred of the Christians by the Jews is something that goes back 150 years because of the European persecutions of the Jews and Holocaust. So, you know, American Jews really need to go to church on Sunday. They need to read the New Testament. And I'm not saying this for them to convert to Christianity. I'm saying to be educated. And if they become educated, they'll make the right decisions.
Thank you. That was a good explanation. I don't know if I phrased the question right, but it's just been you just keep seeing this over and over and over with this guy, and it's so apparent how popular he's rising up and or he's become, and it's like how, I mean, these people evidently, most of them are very ill-educated, and of course they don't know their history, or they would never
Well,
put
it's
anything
not
like
only
that.
history. You have to ask them, did they ever go to a church?
Right. Yeah.
Did they ever go to a born-again church? Did they ever see Christians raising their hands up to the Lord and praising him and praising Israel and loving the Jews? I've been in 1,000 churches. And God is saying to me, if you don't tell the American Jews to go to church on Sunday and read the New Testament, you have failed. And until now, I have failed because what I'm doing is I'm going preaching to the choir. Forgive me for saying it, Elizabeth, because I love you very much. But you're my choir.
Yes.
And the people who receive me everywhere in the United States, whether it be in New York, in Long Island, or Florida, or Texas, or Oklahoma. I hate to say it, I'm preaching to my choir. I'm preaching to my group of people that want to hear me. People who don't want to hear me, they don't invite me, so they don't even know what I'm going to say.
True. That's true.
But I do want to say, and tell this to Vicky, when you see her, that that your town there has played a major role in getting my book translated into Hebrew, and this will eventually it'll give us the impetus to get our 4 candidates into the Knesset, 150,000 votes. That's not impossible. We can do it.
Hey, praise God. I will certainly pass that on.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for always being there.
Thank you.
Any more questions? I'm anxious to hear questions.
This is Annette.
Yes.
I have an opinion. I feel like a lot of people who want to vote for Madani is because they have that syndrome against Trump, and he's against Trump, and they want him because he's against Trump.
Well, I'll tell you, what I heard from President Trump in the news was that President Trump is going to make sure to it that Mamtani is run out of town.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not going to get elected.
Yeah.
I mean, firstly, think for a moment. New York City is the most important. Forgive me for saying it, Texans, or people in other parts of the United States. New York City is a do or die city for America. America cannot tolerate this crazy Muslim communist from being mayor and destroying Jerusalem, destroying New York.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Trump says, this is a question, it's a national priority to make sure that Mamdani is run out of town.
Yeah, good.
That's how I see it.
Good.
Avi, what's the short-term and long-term situation for the Druze? Because it seemed so like such a big thing, and Israel was protecting them, and we keep seeing, pictures in all of the alternative media that we watch of the Druze supporting Israel because they, are protecting him and saved him, and then heard that last week that basically the Syrian government kind of dismissed all investigations into wrongdoing. And so what's their long-term prospects and what's going on with them now?
Well, Lori, this is an excellent question. And what I'll do is, with your permission, I need about 5 minutes, 10 minutes for this. You have to remember that the Druze have a rule. The Druze are pretty much located in 4 countries, and their loyalty, each Druze community is loyal to the country in which they live. So the Israeli Druze are fantastic. They are our best soldiers in the Israeli army. They're not afraid to fight. They're not afraid to die. And they're totally loyal to Israel. In 1967, during the Six-Day War and the conquest of the Golan Heights, the Druze officers in the Israeli army were sent specifically to all the Druze communities. There are 4 major Druze communities in the Golan Heights. And the Druze in the Golan Heights were told, do not leave, do not flee. You will not be harmed by the Israelis. And we Druze officers of the Israeli army, we will protect you, don't worry. And indeed, that's what happened. So after the 67 war, the Druze of the Golan Heights said, well, but we're still Syrian. And we cannot support Israel because if and when we are handed over back to Syria, we will be killed for having been friends with Israel. And so they were very, very stubborn about not taking Israeli citizenship. And what happened was, little by little, more and more Druze from the Golan Heights took Israeli citizenship. But the bulk, the biggest group said, no, we are Syrians, and that's it. But what happened was, when Bashar al-Assad fled to Moscow a few months ago, And Julani, Ahmed Shara took over with these ISIS terrorists. The Druze came to the very bitter realization that there is no more Syria. What you have in Syria today is you have the Druze in the south, the Kurds in the northeast, the Christians in Damascus, and the Alawites are in the northwest. And then the Sunnis came back to seek vengeance against everybody, including the Druze. And the Druze understood that they are no longer Syrians, because today Syria is a Sunni country. So they now, all of the Druze in the Golan Heights took Israeli citizenship, because they're never going to be returned to Syria. All the Druze in Suwaida and the 6 villages near the Golan Heights, they realize they have to be Israeli citizens. They're begging Israel, we want Israeli citizenship, we want Israeli passports, we want salaries, and we want arms so we can defend ourselves. So in effect, the Druze in Suwaida and along the border with Israel, de facto, they have become Israeli citizens. And the Druze in the Golan Heights and the Druze in Israel have become very unified. There is no more of this Druze of Syria will be Syrians. No, that's finished. So this is one of the miracles that we saw God performing in the last 2 years of war with Lebanon and Hamas, and by extension with Syria, where Bashar al-Assad flees, and all of a sudden everything changes. The regime completely changes. And that's because Syria, in the first place, was a fiction. Whoever drew the maps after World War I made very big mistakes. They didn't take into account the individual ethnic groups. And another thing which I mentioned briefly in these Zoom messages is that there is going to be a land passage between Suwaida in southern Syria and the Kurds in northeastern Syria on the Euphrates River. And the Kurds and the Druze are going to march together as a unit. So the Kurds in northeastern Syria are also allies of Israel, allies of the Druze. I haven't spoken very much about the Christians, but in the end, if the Druze decide, not the Druze, if the ISIS groups of al-Shara decide to annihilate the Christians in Syria, Israel has told Shara that there's going to be a line from Damascus south. This will be an area of Israeli control, and that the Turkish-backed ISIS groups should not think about going south of Damascus. So we're going to see the map of the Middle East changing very, very soon. It's already changed, but it's going to change even more. And, the Kurds want to establish a Kurdish state. I mean, there are only 50 million Kurds, and they don't have a state. Everybody's honking their horns about a Palestinian state, which has been a fiction all along anyway. But the Kurds have a state. It's just not recognized. And they cannot fly their civilian airliners out of there without permission from the Iraqis. Or if they make an agreement with Israel and the Suwaida Druze, then the Kurdish airlines can fly south over Suwaida, over this land bridge, and then fly due west over the Mediterranean with Israeli protection. There's also another thing which can be considered, I think must be considered, and that is that the Kurds in Iraq have a neighbor next door called Iran, and there's a Kurdish province there which wants to leave Iran and join the Kurds in Iraq. To the north of the Kurdish province in Iran, there's another province which is Azeri. These are the same people as Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is Turkic, Shiite, but they have an alliance with Israel. And so it may be that the Kurdish airlines will fly to the east and north over the Kurdish province of Iran and fly north over Azerbaijan, and then from there into Russia or any of the areas of the world where they can fly by overcoming the Arab blockade. So we're looking at a very, very interesting development in Kurdistan, in southern Syria, which will now be part of Israel. And actually, I have news for you. Jordan is protected now by the presence of the Kurds in Suwaida. The Jordanians were very afraid of being overthrown by these ISIS militants sent by Turkey. So, King Abdullah of Jordan is not complaining. This is a great defense wall for the Jordanian kingdom. So don't forget to look at that too. I hope I gave you, Lori, more than you expected.
Yes, that's very interesting. So far, is the Syrian government kind of abiding by that Israeli warning, or do you think they'll ignore it?
Well, I have to tell you, let me think. You know what? Rachel and I and my children and grandchildren were at Ein Gedi, Kibbutz Ein Gedi on the Dead Sea.
Uh-huh.
And they were in Snapling and they went into the desert and they went into the Dead Sea. And I was sleeping the whole time because of my jet lag from this trip. And so Rachel put on the TV, and we have a station called I-24. And I don't know if any of you pick up I-24, but it's like an Israeli CNN, excuse the expression. And they have broadcasts in Arabic and in French and in English and in Hebrew. And I was really falling asleep. And all of a sudden, they had this Arab Christian lady from Jaffa. Her name is Laureen. And she's fantastic. And she had two guests. One was pro-Druze, pro-Kurdish, and the other one was pro-ISIS. And they were saying in the interview that the Turks now are disrupting everything that Ashara is doing. So Ashara represents the ISIS-led Sunni government of Syria, but the Turks are giving orders, instructions to different Bedouin groups and other fanatics, Sunni groups, to attack the Druze and to attack the Kurds and to attack others. And Ashara is angry because Ashara is trying to develop good relations with Israel, well, at least on the surface, and more important, good relations with President Trump. And the Turks are sabotaging everything that Ashara is doing. So because of the fact that Rachel and I were watching this TV program and the interview was in Arabic, the debate was in Arabic, and Rachel was translating for me on the spot everything that we were watching. The Turks are spoilers. The Turks are no good next year. So, but Syria is definitely totally unstable. And so Israel is strengthening its position with the Kurds, with the Druze, with the Christians, even the Alawites, who were busy, very, very fierce enemies of Israel under the Bashar al-Assad and Hafiz al-Assad government. Now they're begging Israel to defend them from the Sunnis.
Wow.
So we have entered a new time now, a new era in Syrian history.
Interesting.
You know the Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times? So we are living in interesting times, let me tell you.
What about, seems like we're also hearing increased activity with Israel in Judea and Samaria, like rooting out terror cells in Judea and Samaria. Is that true, or is it just getting more light now? Is it always like this, or is it just getting more exposure?
I think it's getting more exposure. You have to remember that we have demographically a problem with 6 million Muslims. 2 million in Gaza, 2 million in Judea and Samaria, and 2 million in the Galilee and in the Negev. What I was thinking, what I was hoping, what I think President Trump was hoping, was that the 2 million in Gaza would be transferred to Indonesia or some other countries. By the way, the Indonesians agreed to take 2,000 injured Palestinians temporarily, put them in hospitals on an island in Indonesia, and then send them back. But I think what we're seeing is the tip of an iceberg. President Trump has made a number of very important economic decisions with the Indonesians. And so I think that Indonesia will play a very big role with these Gaza Palestinians, but the war has to be completed. And Trump has given Israel carte blanche to finish the job. But like I said before, the sabotage from this Israeli chief of staff, Eyal Zamir, he has to be fired. So don't be surprised if we see a revolution in Israel. Now, once the 2 million Gaza Muslims are gone, we're left with 2 million in Judea and Samaria and 2 million in the remainder of Israel. And you have to remember, these people are all cut from the same satanic cloth. And the bottom line is kill the Jews and the Christians. So I think it's like pickup sticks. Gaza became the easiest of the pickup sticks, even though it seems like it's such a horrible thing. It's not so horrible. It can be done. And Trump backs us. And all these governments that so-called recognized Palestinian state, the virtual Palestinian state, these are all left-wing socialist governments. And so the hope is that in the next round of elections, these socialist governments will be removed and get the patriotic Christian nation back into these people and cancel the support for this virtual Nazi state of Palestine, which doesn't exist. So 2 million in Gaza, 2 million in Judea and Samaria. Yes, we have problems there. They are all Hamas. And the Palestinian Authority is just trying to imitate Hamas, but they're just as bad. And then you've got the Muslims living in the villages in the north and south of Israel, and they're also enemies. So I think that when they have to make the choice between turning their areas into Gaza or remaining loyal or at least peaceful citizens of Israel, they have to make the decision. Hopefully they won't be stupid. If they are stupid, it only follows what God said, that there's a reason that he made Pharaoh's heart stubborn.
Hello?
Who's that, Angela?
No, this is Annette. Annette.
Annette, okay, I didn't hear you clearly. Yes, dear.
Okay. Now you said that there's Kurds in Iran, and you also said that the Kurds are for Israel. Now I was seeing
Right.
on the news that Iran is executing more people than they ever have because they're for Israel. And I was wondering, are they executing the Kurds?
Yes, the Kurds are the most, how shall I say, the biggest reformers in Iran are the Kurds. And the Kurds are anxious to break away from Iran and join up with the Kurds of Iraq, Syria, and Turkey.
Well, they're
I think
executing.
I think that Iran is going to get dismembered, and the Iranians who are Azeri, they're going to be part of Azerbaijan,
Mhm,
and the Arabs in the southwest of Iran, they're going to join Iraq.
mhm. No,
So what they're going to be left with, instead of Iran, is going to be called Persia, because Persia was the Elam of the Bible,
Yeah,
and they're going to be beaten.
yeah,
All they have to do is make peace with Israel, and it's over. But if they just want to keep fighting and fighting and fighting, we're going to take that country apart.
yeah.
The map of the Middle East is going to change.
Mhm.
And like I said before, Trump doesn't need his face on Mount Rushmore. Trump needs a whole mountain to himself.
Oh, uh-huh. Yeah.
Avi, this is Nilda from Big Spring, Texas, and I've got a question.
Yes, dear.
With September looming and the UN having these nations more and more added to support Gaza getting back to, well, I don't know how to word it, but doesn't Israel need to act now to go in, take Gaza? Gaza was part of Judea, and just not even, as Bibi said the other day, he didn't want Gaza, but really Israel, Gaza is part of Israel, and just do it. But if they miss the September deadline, the UN's going to put a lot of more pressure on them. I'm just asking.
The question is a good question. The answer is yes. However, we are dealing with a chief of staff who has shown his true colors, and he is with the Kaplan protesters. He's with the socialists. He's with all the other generals. Listen, you cannot become a general in the Israeli army unless you go through the socialist filter. So our top officers are traitors because they've been trained to be communist socialist traitors. Netanyahu is going to have to find a way to finish the job with Gaza very quickly. And so I think we can expect things to fall into place in the next 2-3 weeks.
And also, when Johnson went to Shiloh and then Bibi met him there, do you think that Johnson was making a statement with Trump's backing that Judea and Samaria was to be taken, and he took a stand on that?
I think the answer is yes. However, we can't do anything until we finish the job in Gaza first.
Okay.
Gaza has to be purged first of its Hamas. Then we purge the Hamas from Judea and Samaria. And don't forget that the groups that are in Israel in the Arab section, they're Muslim Brotherhood. They're the same satanic group.
One more. Is that there is a buzz in this nation, and I don't know if you heard it when you were here in the United States, but there's a lot of especially mega churches that are saying that Israel today is not the biblical Israel. And so what God said about blessing Israel does not apply to the Israel of today.
Well, obviously, this is a how shall I say, a distortion, and that the true Israel is the Israel of today. You can talk about things that might have happened 1,000 years ago, or 2,000 years ago, or 3,000 years ago. You look at every nation in the world, and you look at the history of England. England, at first, they were all Gaelic, and then the Gaelic people were kicked out to Ireland. Then you had these Anglo-Saxons, and then the French came in, the Normans. And so who's an Englishman? The English today are a mixture of many nations. And the Jewish people are also a mixture of many nations that came in. And, listen, I got blue eyes, and the blue eyes, I've got Norwegian genes. So where did I get the Norwegian genes from? It was something from the Norwegian people from maybe 800-900 years ago. And it's very, very hard to find Jewish people who don't have some kind of mixture in their blood from other nations, because we were scattered to all the nations. So how can it be that we didn't mix with other nations?
Exactly. But the agenda was for the Palestinians, and to that the church is not obligated to support Israel. Even the new pope came out and very upset over Israel. And so it's just trying to send another lie to the people that are, I don't want to say ignorant Christians or ignorant believers, but that will believe the leader over what God's word says. And with that,
Uh,
I'll stop.
Let me say in conclusion, and I've said this many times before, and that is that I went as a young boy to public school from 8 to 3 every day, from 3 to 5 intramurals, which is sports. From 5 to 7, I went to Hebrew high school. I was all day studying. And what I'm saying to Christian America is that the Christian churches have to have a similar program. Every church has to have a similar program from 5 to 7 every evening. The kids finish school and they go straight to, from sports. If they go to sports, otherwise they go straight to church to continue higher studies. And then the real history has to be taught. The church has a great role to play. The church has to re-educate people above and beyond the nonsense that they get in the public schools.
Yeah.
Last question. Is there a last question, or should we call it a wrap?
That was a lot of ground covered.
Oh, we always do.
Avi, it's Angela.
Yeah.
I'd just
Hey,
lastly, I'd be
why,
interested.
why were you so quiet this time?
I was just listening to everybody.
Good.
It's nice to hear what's on other people's minds. However, I'd like to know what you think about this. It's just been reported yesterday on Amir Safati's Telegram page that there was a US nuclear sniffer aircraft. I think it's called a Constant Phoenix aircraft, and its role is to detect traces of nuclear explosions. And this aircraft has been spotted operating in the Mediterranean, cruising along the coast of Libya and Egypt. I'll just be interested to know what you make of that.
I didn't hear anything, so I can't answer. I
Yeah,
have no knowledge about that.
yeah. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
I do know that there was a problem with Libya, and I think it was President Reagan made sure to disarm Libya of its nuclear project. But it may be that there's something under the ground there that we don't know about that wasn't detected or uncovered.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Thank you, Avi.
My pleasure. Good to hear from you.
Yeah. I see you're back home safe and sound.
Oh, I'm enjoying life. Not for
Ah.
long. Not for long, but I'm enjoying life. I have to come back to the States in mid to late October.
Uh-huh.
But of course, if elections are called, then I have to start campaigning all over again.
Amen. Yes, indeed. Well, we shall see. Thanks, Avi.
Amen.
Amen.
Is that it for today?
I have the last word. Yes, dear.
Okay.